Thanks everyone for being here today. Start with just a little bit of background on our organization, Continental General. We have the unique experience of being both an insurance carrier and a third-party administrator. So we have the unique opportunity to understand both, where the insurance company is coming from, what some of the challenges are that insurance companies have, as well as understanding what a third-party client may need. So we administer business for other insurance companies, as well as a lot of new insurtechs, startups, things of that nature who are looking for someone to administer their business, whether on our system or their other systems. A little bit of history about our organization. Although we've been an insurance company since back in the 1960s, we really had been focused primarily on long-term care insurance and really administering and managing a closed block. So by that I mean we were not issuing any new business. We had a lot of expertise in the long-term care, supplemental health segments, and things like that, which was really an industry or a line of business that a lot of insurance companies really wanted nothing to do with. They really wanted to get out of that block. And so for us, that was an opportunity for us to go in and really acquire those blocks, bring those blocks in, really become one with our admin system, and really manage those blocks that other carriers and other groups were looking to get rid of. Kind of fast forward a little bit, as we came in with some new ownership, they were really looking to grow the organization. So one of the things that you'll know about a closed block, if you're not familiar, is it's a lot of routine servicing of policies, right? So what's needed to manage an in-force block is very different from what's needed for when you're issuing new business. You can imagine the teams, the departments, the technology, everything like that is very different. So we had to undergo not only a technology transformation, but also a business transformation as well. So a lot goes in with the change management, as you can imagine, of the people, the organization, just how the company as a whole was really structured. So we spent a lot of time with really going through what our growth model was going to be. Our new ownership really wanted to invest in the organization, wanted to figure out what our growth strategy was going to be. And so we kind of lived by three pillars for our growth trajectory. That first pillar really being looking at diversification. So while we were very experienced and had a lot of experience and background in long-term care, we're also looking to diversify into other lines of insurance business. So really looking at life insurance, other lines of business, while not leaving our roots and our core for that long-term care insurance. So that was one pillar, is really that diversification, but also how we were generating income and revenue for the organization by going back into new business. So as I mentioned, there's a lot that goes into kind of getting ready to go back into new business. So that was something that we invested a lot of, both capital assets for, the technology, really going through the digital transformation, as well as in acquiring the people and the right partnerships that we needed to be able to sustain and manage and really, represent that. So what we did is we worked with Amazon and really kind of worked with their, working backwards approach, if you will, kind of starting with the end in sight, really looking at our existing customer base and what their needs are. Again, talking with our existing customers, there are a lot of long-term care policy owners. So if you can imagine, the demographic of that is generally a little bit older, as well as any POAs or their family members who are helping them with their policies. And so as we're looking at a digital transformation for these existing policyholders, we're really looking at what's top of the line that's out there in the industry now. What are other carriers doing? Where are the pain points? We really went and looked at the feedback from our customers, as well as the customers of other insurers, and kind of what's out there in the industry to really get a feel for what we would need to really bring the best experience to our existing client base. And then how could we iterate on that? And so we put together several plans. We worked on, working backwards from looking at what are the needs of the client, where are their focus. We worked on FAQs and things like that they're looking for. We really put together our roadmap of where the focus should be. What are some of the things that they want to be able to do on their own digitally from a customer portal and from a technology standpoint. Obviously the letters AI are all over the place, and so it was great for us to be able to partner with AWS and really, number one, transition to the cloud, which Kaylin will get into a little bit of the details of just how recently we went into the cloud, and then immediately we're able to leverage, our cloud computing to really be able to bring these digital transformations to the clients. So again, we worked on really that press release. So talking about the working backwards, we started from what our ideal future state was going to be. We looked at what would it look like when we're presenting and representing out where we are and where we want to be, who we are at that moment. And we worked that so we had that ideal state. And then we were able to work backwards from that and really build off of that, iterate from that. We spent probably 2 months or so really just working on the plan. What does it look like? How do we get there? What do those FAQs look like? What is it that the customer is looking for? What is it that those who are working with that policyholder are looking for? And what type of technology can we put in place to best support those policy owners as well as their family members and things like that coming to the portal? Again, thinking back to like our primary focus in the past had been on long-term care, that being a product line that a lot of other insurers were really looking to kind of offload, if you will, to other insurers. We had to ensure that we continued to leverage our strengths with that product line, but then also build a team from the outside that also had the experience in other lines of business, other technology sources, other admin systems, other platforms to implement and bring those into the organization to really be able to serve that existing client base, but also focusing on the new clients that we hadn't yet built or hadn't yet acquired, and then building those products for them as well. So we were able to partner with that as well as with the architecture for the technology for these groups and really iterate on those plans. So Caitlin, maybe if you want to give a little bit more background on kind of how we got there and what that technology really was like.
Thank you, Ayana. So as we've gone through this process of working backward from the customer, you may have the question, what did you actually build? And I'm really glad you asked. So we started out with the idea that we needed a customer portal, kind of a traditional approach, but where we landed was really a customer enablement platform that covered many disparate services. It spans the web, it spans mobile, it automates and facilitates many of the most cumbersome processes that we have at Continental. It gives our customers a consolidated view of their data. And finally, it facilitates communication with our customers through features like a chatbot, powered by Lex and backed by intelligence with Amazon Q. But we didn't stop there. We also wanted to include the other major modes of communication with our customer, including voice. And so we integrated with Amazon Connect. Not just being a unified communications as a service platform in and of itself, we also integrated it with Lex too. So now our customer service representatives could have a live chat with our customers where Q might not suffice. We could get real customer sentiment feedback on the call. And finally, we could get very interesting features also powered by Amazon Q integration, such as early real-time fraud detection at point of call. And finally, next best action recommendations for our customer service reps. So a huge facilitator, allowing us to meet our customers where they are, but in real time. I'd like to take a step back behind the build a little bit and talk about some of the core principles that we followed while we were creating this solution. We really followed two main paradigms. One was an API-driven approach, and secondly, serverless technology wherever we could. API-driven approach, of course, allowed the disparate teams that were involved in this build to be able to develop independently and in parallel, thus maximizing our ability to deliver the entire solution as fast as possible. Serverless comes with some major benefits. It has inherent scalability. That was really our first reason for using serverless, but also resiliency. And then finally, it really adapts to the pattern of infrastructure as code, thus allowing our DevOps practices to go at a pace we had never seen before. So from there, you may think that we had everything figured out and we understood all of our problems from the get-go. I'm here to tell you that there were some lessons learned along the way. First and foremost, I have this as a first bullet point, but honestly, it's not a problem that we have with our visionary leaders at Continental, but you have to get buy-in from the top. You have to, or a transformational effort this large is doomed to failure. Not just budgetary, but the idea of the change has to start from the top. But the most important one to us is make sure that you involve your business partners. Truly partner with them, because they know right from wrong, which leads us into the third point of we always work backward from the customer. So if we always keep the customer in mind, we will never be right or never be wrong. It's not a Freudian slip. So I would be very remiss if I didn't mention our engagement with AWS Professional Services. For those of you who aren't aware of the service that Amazon provides, they are a team of the best, and they are experts in their field, and they can partner with you so that if you have interest in getting from point A to point B at light speed of execution, call your rep and talk to AWS Professional Services. They're wonderful. And then finally, especially as a leader, get out of the way. Once the build starts, let the builders build. I am in a very regulated entity, and so sometimes it's very easy to get in a mindset where the bureaucracy that we have in place, especially for delivery and ideation, is seen as normal. And with today's modern technology and practices, we can still achieve the separation of duty that many of us might require while still allowing for highly empowered teams to deliver as fast as possible. Now, all this said, and these aren't on the slide, but I should add that we're actually new to the cloud. We fully migrated our physical data center located in Austin to the cloud in December of last year, so it hasn't even been a year. And we were really hoping that in the beginning of this new journey into the cloud that we would see some form of boost, some form of business impact, ability to transform. And what we saw just knocked our socks off. Because what we found is that after we lifted and shifted to the cloud, there were so many other capabilities available in terms of ideation and rapid delivery that it was very difficult to keep up with change. In fact, we had to restructure our teams to human-wise physically adapt to the ability to scale that the cloud provided. And so now that we're here, not even a year later, we have completely transformed our customer experience, and now we're excited to see what comes next. That's all we have tonight. I hope you appreciate the presentation on how we transformed our customer experience at Continental. Thank you very much.